most new cancer drugs are approved in Europe without evidence of their overall survival benefits. My name is Huseyin Naci, and I'm an Associate Professor of Health Policy at the London School of Economics in the UK. My research focuses on evidence-based decision-making with a particular emphasis on pharmaceuticals. Most recently, my research has focused primarily on cancer drugs, as new cancer drugs now account for about a third of all new drug approvals. And there's growing concern about the clinical benefits of some new cancer drugs. As my collaborators and I showed in a paper published in the BMJ in 2017, most new cancer drugs are approved in Europe without evidence of their overall survival benefits. However, until recently, risk of bias of randomized controlled trials that support recent EMA cancer drug approvals had not been evaluated. Therefore, I collaborated with a group of researchers to answer the question, how strong is the evidence that supports the approval of new cancer drugs in Europe? Now, this is an important question because the validity of the available evidence is a prerequisite for shared decision-making. And to answer this question, we collected information from regulatory documents, trial protocols, published trial reports, and supplementary appendices. And what did we find? Well, we found that between 2014 and 2016, there were 32 new cancer drugs approved by the European Medicines Agency, or EMA. Of these 32 new drugs, only 27 had at least one randomized controlled trial. And strikingly, only half of all new cancer drugs approved during this period had at least one randomized controlled trial that we judged to be at low risk of bias. Now, these are important findings because flaws in the design, conduct, analysis, or reporting of randomized controlled trials can produce bias in study results, therefore potentially jeopardizing their validity. Now, where do these findings leave patients and clinicians who need to interpret trial findings and make decisions about new cancer drugs? Well, currently, it's difficult, if not impossible, for patients and clinicians to actually understand the validity of clinical studies that form the basis of cancer drug approvals. This information is really difficult to collect and to synthesize. Therefore, to help address this problem, we received financial support from Health Action International to develop a standalone website to report the risk of bias in clinical studies that support new drug approvals in Europe. This website is intended to serve as a living review companion to our published study in the BMJ. The website provides an interactive presentation for the risk of bias analysis, as well as the underlying data set. As new cancer drugs are approved by the European regulators, we hope to update the data as well as the analysis. And at this point in time, we call for close collaboration among regulators, cancer trialists, academic researchers, clinicians, and patients to routinely evaluate and present risk of bias information to inform patient choice and contribute to shared decision-making in clinical practice.